What is happening, y'all? We are back at it again with another video. It's called Business or Brutally Honest Advice from a Younger and Poorer Self by Mosey. So let's go.
Advice to my younger self. You can beat 99% of people simply by continuing to work without.
You can beat 99% of people simply by continuing to work without needing your immediate reward. Because whatever your immediate reward is the delayed gratification. It's the next step, it's the next business, it's the next dream, it's the next idea. Because without this so-called idea, you may never know where this life will lead you to.
Needing your immediate reward. This bit is advice to my younger self on how I'd work harder. You're gonna lose sleep, you'll doubt whether it'll work, you'll stress to make ends meet, you won't finish your to-do list, you'll wonder if you made the right call and have no way to know for years.
You're gonna lose sleep, you doubt whether it'll work, you're stressed to make ends meet, you won't finish your to-do list, you wonder why you made the right call, and have no way for years. This is what hard feels like, and that is okay. That's what hard is supposed to be like, because without it not being hard, you may never know where this life will lead you to. And where this life will lead you to, you may never know where this next video will take you, or where this next perspective, or where this next identity shift will be. Once you realize that it's all about perception and perspective, that is where you grow. That is where you learn. That is where you try. That is where you continually on doing the things over and over again until you make it. Until you make it. Which is why that is what hard feels like. If it was hard, it was not easy to obtain. If that makes sense.
But that's what hard feels like. The other great reason for working harder is that the harder you work, the more you realize what you used to think was hard work isn't even close to what you're capable of. Because if you want to know what the most dangerous money-making combo in the world, it's work ethic and time. Because once you realize just how much more work it takes to get from good to great, you realize you can only be great at a few things and you're forced to ignore the rest. The amount of work it takes to be good negates the ability to be great at more than one or two things. The amount of work it takes to be good negates the ability to be great at more.
It negates the ability to be great at more than one or two things, because whatever these things are, they are skills, they are habits, they are decisions being directed by you, by yourself, when there is nobody else around.
Than one or two things, because there's just only so much time. It just takes work, shitloads and shitloads of work, and every time I dress it up or cut a corner, I get brutally reminded by life that the work just needs doing. So yes, this is your friendly
Which is your friendly reminder to do the work now and get the work done now, because if not, you'll be obligated to do other things, which means you can do with whatever you want now, with whatever time you have left, because you only get 4,200 weeks. That is all that what we are. Which means we don't have a lot of time to be wasted on doom scrolling or just sitting there doing nothing. I would rather be working than be doing nothing and be actually making good content that is quality, in my personal opinion.
reminder that it's okay to work on weekends. I used to think that if I worked on
I would rather work on weekends, because who else is gonna beat me at being me? Nobody will. Nobody will understand, nobody will do, nobody will think, nobody will act in the way that I do. Because I know what myself needs.
something for a day, it was a lot. I was like, dude, I worked on this for a whole day. That was like a huge amount of work, and I would say that to someone to show them how hard I worked. And then it became like I worked on this for a week and then a month, and I would say now that I can work on the same project for a year or 2 years, and that's what, like, to the books has been huge projects.
Could you use up to $800? Find it at BioLife. Up to $800 is waiting for you.
For me, my quickest shorthand on the shift in work is that I started counting in hundreds. Hundreds of minutes, hundreds of hours, hundreds of days towards a specific goal.
Because once you count minutes to hours, that is when you know that you have only done with what is best for you right now. If you don't count the time, if you don't count the energy, if you don't count the dreams, the habits, the beliefs, then you might never know where this life will lead you to.
count in hundreds, it just automatically forces you to do a significantly larger amount of effort, just sheer volume of work. I think one of my favorite parables about work is that there was an art class. They split the class into two groups. And one group, they said, make the absolute best pot and turn in one pot. And the other group, they said, make as many pots as you possibly can. At the end of the semester, the team that had to make as many pots as humanly possible not only made more pots, but also ended up making better pots than the one that spent all of their time trying to make one. I think a lot of people need that permission to have a lot of shitty first drafts in order to start working harder on anything, but that's not how I operate, because for me, I would rather spend a lot more time on my first draft so I don't have to make so many more edits. If you do it the right way, you realize how many hours you're gonna have to put into something, and usually
And if you do it the right way, you do it in your own standards, you do it in your own things, because you know what needs to be done, which means what needs to be done is the work that is needed to be done.
most people that I feel like haven't done that level of effort confront the work and then they get scared about it. I have to find a different way. This can't actually be how people do this. That is how you do it. The work just needs doing, and no one's gonna do it for you. I started with people do this. That is how you do it. The work just needs doing, and no one's gonna do it.
The work just needs doing and nobody's gonna do it for you. Once you know that the work needs doing and it needs to get done by today, see, now for me, I need to make 5 to 15 videos to make myself feel like I've made enough content within one day. And of course, I'm trying to beat Harmosi's 90 videos within 3 days, which means it is possible. It is possible to become mainstream, which is what I'm hoping to get within making all these videos.
For you. I started with a normal hourly job, and I think a lot of people do. A lot of early job thoughts or lessons are that when you show up to work, you are working because you're getting paid to be there. When you start working for yourself, you're not getting paid to be there. You're only getting paid on what you do. I've gone on vacations with other entrepreneurs. They're like, man, we had a crazy work day. I was like, I was with you, homie. Like, that was not a work. These are off days for me. Like, these aren't like real work days. Because work occurred, it to me is not a work day. Unless I have a clear output for what I have done or move forward, work did
not get done because his vision of something else that perceives him as working is different than what other people see as working out or working hard at.
Yeah. The longer you can delay when you need to be rewarded,
The longer you can delay when you need to be rewarded, the better it is for yourself, because without not knowing what yourself is and what yourself is truly trying to go through, you might never know what that delay is meant for. So, for me, posting a lot of content on a daily basis is the best way for me to do, is because that's the only way I can get my business out there. And the moment I stop posting is the moment I let my channel die, which I've already let multiple different channels die, which is why I'm not going to allow this to die.
for the work that you do, the greater the outcome.
For the work that you do, the greater the outcome is, because without not doing the work, you may never know what that belief happened, what that thing was said, what that thing was related to.
It's kind of like a plane taking off. The longer the runway, the bigger the plane. And so a lot of people can barely even get a bottle rocket off the ground because they have such a short attention span and such a need for immediate reward. If you feel like you're behind where you should be by now, if you feel like you're losing, if you're not sure it's gonna work, there's nothing wrong with you. That is entrepreneurship. If you're not sure it's gonna work, there's nothing wrong with you.
If you feel like you're behind when you should be by now, if you feel like you're losing, you're not sure it's gonna work out, there's nothing wrong with you. Welcome to entrepreneurship. That was well spoken and well stated, because if you don't do the work is going to be weighted on other people. And when you don't do the work, you don't do the things, then of course your business will not take off. And without knowing when your business will take off, then you might never know where this life will lead you to. And I'm not gonna be here along the ride. I would rather be making more money online than I'd have time with my hands, which I have nothing but time, so I'd rather not waste time. by waiting for people to see me for me. I would rather do the work that is as needed. Because this is entrepreneurship. This is not a rat race. This is entrepreneurship. This is business. This is thoughts. This is whatever it is you want to call it. And by now, if you feel like you're losing, if you're sure it's going to work out, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just entrepreneurship is a lot more difficult for some people to fathom and for some people to handle.
Is entrepreneurship. You're on the right path. You're doing the right things. You're seeing the milestones along the way, but the milestones aren't parades. It's uncertainty. It's a sleepless nights. It's not knowing if you can make payroll. It's not even being sure that the 5 years you put into this idea is actually going to turn into something that you'll get credit for eventually. The biggest shift that I had internally during those harder times was that I am the output of my work.
I am the output of my work. Very well said. Because without our inputs, we are nothing besides our outputs. With our outputs, we can do with whatever we want. We can take the advice, we can take the mentality, we can take the belief, but nothing happens if you do not do the work. If you wait for the work to be waited on, then you may never know where this work will lead you to.
All of this effort is to create who I want to become. I get to use that.
All this effort is to create where my story will lead, where this thing will lead, where this so-called thing will lead. And whatever this so-called thing is leading to, it can lead to a story, it can lead to a new perspective, it can lead to a new idea, it can lead to a new dream. Whatever this so-called thing is, I will not stop working. And if I stop working, then I lose my seconds of output time that I've wasted by doing nothing. Which is why I would rather be working my ass off than be doing nothing at all. Because I'm a hard worker.
It's my reward every day rather than the approval of strangers. Sitting in uncertainty is the feeling of entrepreneurship. You're not doing rather than the approval of strangers. Sitting in uncertainty is the feeling of
Sitting in uncertainty, that is the feeling of entrepreneurship. Without the uncertainty of you making it big, of you taking the hat by the wheel and actually changing your perspective, changing your hat, changing the way you think, changing the way you are. Because if you take out the uncertainty of anything, then you will never be certain of what will happen. You never will be until it truly happens. And once it happens quickly.
entrepreneurship. You're not doing it wrong. Like, that's what it feels like. It's kind of this weird dichotomy of feeling like you never have enough time, but then you also have all the time in the world. The biggest reason that a lot of entrepreneurs don't succeed is because they're in a rush. The rush is what creates poor decisions, and so they consistently hop from thing to thing to thing because they think this thing will get them there faster. By hopping consistently, they guarantee that they'll never get there. And I think we have a culture that rewards speed because everybody wants things fast and easy. In $100 Million Offers, the book, I talk about value. You have a dream outcome, and then you have basically basically everything that discounts or multiplies it. A discount would be risk associated with it. I want this thing, but I want it to be guaranteed, I want it to be easy, and I want it to be fast. And entrepreneurship is literally the opposite of that. The dream outcome's there, but it is not guaranteed, incredibly hard, and takes forever. The problem is that it's so compelling to sell people on that, and there's so many more ad dollars that go into it's fast, it's easy, and it's guaranteed, that it's really tough to shift the landscape of the language around entrepreneurship because there's just so much money to be made by making that promise. The concept of the billionaire who like starts back over and they're like, could he do it again? It's like, well, of course. The problem with the show is that they give you 90 days. The premise is wrong. And I get why they do it, is because they have to cater to people who think that way, which is most people. Can he build $1 million business in 90 days? But it's like, but he could build a much bigger business in 2 years. And that billionaire would probably never build the business that he builds on the show. So it actually reinforces the wrong perspective. From a brand foundation perspective, it's how can I build a reputation over a long period of time, not necessarily with the intent to transact, but simply to build a reputation associating myself with these positive things. That takes time. For one, lots of people to find out about you, and two, for a lot of people to develop a strong affinity and make multiple associations with you so that it's stronger. The classic example of that is somebody who makes content for 5 years and then launches a product, and the product's immediately $1 billion thing. Well, it's not that they made $1 billion in a year, it's that they spent 5 years letting the roots go down for the bamboo tree, and then eventually it shoots up, right? On the other hand, you've got kind of product-based foundation. Software, you might take a long time to code and like write a huge code base that could go after some big problem. It can be regulatory stuff, because if you want to get into like banking, for example, there's lots of barriers to entry. Even if you're starting an e-commerce brand, you would be talking to different manufacturers, you'd be going through prototypes, you'd be trying things out, you'd be testing it in beta groups to get feedback, and then you'd probably have some sort of capital investment to capitalize your first inventory run. All of those things are the foundations. The reason I like service businesses for people who are starting out is that you don't have to do either of those things. But if you had one or two or both of those things, then you can create something bigger, faster, on a longer time horizon. It's actually the classic example of how long do you sharpen the axe. If someone is doing a business that they have no leverage because they built no foundation, they basically just take whatever axe is given to them and they just start hacking away at the tree. Except in the game of business, the tree might be a mile wide, and the axe that you have could be a lightsaber if you spend enough time sharpening it. Even if it took one guy a year of going from dull axe to lightsaber, he would still catch up at year 2, and then from year 2 to 10 doesn't even get close to the other guy. But the problem is that everybody listens to everyone else who's judging them on their time horizon. Like, you quit your job on an employee time horizon, your family's like, have you started making money yet? And you're like, it's been 2 weeks. They're like, well, yeah, this is when you would normally get a paycheck. Your measuring stick has to change when you get into a different game. Sometimes the fastest way to get to $1 million a year isn't the fastest way to get to $10 million.
Because $1 million is
year. And to the same degree, the fastest way to get to 10 isn't the fastest way to go to 100. If we're measuring effort in terms of stress and hours per day, running a local restaurant takes the same amount of work as building an application that could be $1 billion application. And it might take you a few years for a restaurant to build a reputation in the area, get locals coming in, hire and train good talent. Like, it takes a lot of work to do all that stuff. And to the same degree, hiring really good development engineers and creating a prototype, like, the actual work and stress is almost identical. It's almost like you have 3 slot machines that you're going up to, and they all cost the same cost, but one of them has a $1 billion payout, one has a $10 million payout, and one has a $100,000 payout, and everyone just lines up for the $100,000 payout. The third variable, if we're gonna like make this in terms of dimensions, the next one is how long are we measuring the payout for the slot machine? We assume that slot machines pay out immediately, but if one slot machine pays out now, one pays out in a year, and one pays out in 5 years, what if the odds were the same, but you only got one coin? Which one would you do? People say they would do the $1 billion one, but based on their behavior, they're just standing at the fast token machine, not being able to break it. The fact that you don't know if it's gonna work is exactly what makes it worth doing. It's why entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart. You have to embrace uncertainty. What makes entrepreneurship isn't the work itself, it's actually just not knowing if the work will work. We're afraid of wasted effort, but if it makes you better, then
what makes entrepreneurship hard isn't the work, it's the knowing whether it will work. Because the knowing is the void, it's the unknown, it's the draft, it's whatever it is that you want to make it as. We're afraid of wasted work, but if it makes you better, no work is truly wasted because it's making you better, it's making you think different, it's making you do different things. I don't think I need to explain that anymore.
No effort is wasted. And as long as you can make that connection, you're not going to burn out. You're just doing what it takes. The biggest meta lesson of my entire life was when I lost everything the first time. I had sold all the gyms, and then that was my nest egg for my 5 years of work, even though it was not as much as I had hoped, but it was still something. And then I put that all into the next thing and then lost it all. But after losing it all, I was able to immediately go out and make $100,000 the next month with nothing, maxing out a credit card to do it. That moment was when I was like, oh, like I thought that the gyms were the thing that I had built, but it was my skills is the thing that I had built. I consider skills income insurance. You just
Because without skills, you are nothing but the rat race within the time that is waited to be happened.
know that you will be able to make money. People want to invest in the stock market because they want to have a retirement. If you invest in skills, that is your retirement because you will always be able to trade them for money.
Because you will always be able to trade them for money, which is why skills is one of the best payouts that can ever truly happen to a person.
And whether the money's in Bitcoin, seashells, or dollars, you'll always be able to trade something of value. I'm sure this is going to piss off the exact same people that we think it's going to piss off. You don't need a weekend. Like, the concept is barely 100 years old. It's a
I'll see you guys in the next one, and yeah, peace.